what you know about purification to save the heart of a nation. Let burn a talking wood, bringing light to a talking wood. Natural law, just wisdom and love, vision truth below as a bird. Let burn a talking wood, let burn a talking wood.
Try that again. Welcome to the Affirm Life Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Mitchell. I have a very special guest for you tonight, Steve Phillips. That's my brother, actually. So we're going to be talking about the moral conflict between military service and natural law. Now, Steve spent the majority of his adult life in the military, so he is a retired Air Force Master Sergeant. So you're talking about a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the military. So we're going to really probe deep into this topic, and we're going to discuss the following questions. What does military training and service entail? Why do people join the military? What are service members exposed to physically and mentally? How does military service impact service members spiritually? And is there a moral conflict between military service and natural law? So Steve, do you want to give a little introduction before we jump into the questions?
Sure. I spent almost 25 years in the military. And by the way, good evening, everyone. Happy to be on Affirm Life Daily, speaking my truth. And like I said, I joined the military when I was 18 years old. I mean, fresh 18, turned 18 in June, joined in July, and kind of never looked back. And I traveled all over. I wasn't the type to really sit still. So I was on a lot of different types of missions, in a lot of different commands, and, we're stationed in a lot of different countries. So that gave me kind of a really broad view of what the military does. And some of the units I was stationed with, were very active with other branches, with special forces and things like that. So, but I'm just happy to be here and tell my story and field any questions.
Okay, awesome. So my first question is just kind of a very general question. So what does military training and service entail?
All right. Military service starts with basic training. For the Air Force, it's 7.5 weeks, I believe now. When I went through, it was 6 weeks, so it's a little longer now. But that's the point in the military where they break you down and they build you back up into an order follower, essentially. So you're kind of stripped of all, rights, personal decisions. Everything is controlled. When you eat, when you go to the bathroom, it's either scheduled or you need permission. When you sleep, when you wake up, when and where you can walk. So that kind of sounds a lot like maybe prison.
I was just about to say that sounds like prison. That sounds like just like prison.
It's an extremely controlled environment. And the only way you're going to make it through is to follow the rules, no matter how silly. And they do have, during basic training, they play a lot of silly mind games and have, like ridiculous requirements. Like, for instance, everyone has to be able to fold their underwear into 4-inch squares. And then somebody will come by and measure your underwear. And if you can't do it, that's grounds to boot you out. So
really?
Yeah. You have to follow all the rules, no matter how silly. That's just one small example.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's part of the mind game, and and just part of, can you just do what we say without thinking, no matter how ridiculous it sounds to you. So those restrictions, kind of ease up through basic training, and
I heard interrupt you, but I heard there's also like a lot of sleep deprivation in basic training. Is that true?
Initially, yeah. So especially the first 2 weeks. So what they'll do is, in the middle of the night, somebody will just come through banging on something, make a lot of noise, wake everybody up, make everybody stand up, and maybe do a little weird exercise or something. And they'll do that like randomly during the first 2 weeks. So, yeah. So that kind of, obviously, it's in the middle of the night. Sometimes they'll do it more than once in a given night. And then one night they might not do it at all. But you don't know when that is. You're already on edge. You're in a new environment. Everything's completely different than what you know. Yeah. So, yeah, it makes it hard to sleep. And, something else people probably don't know is that it's very normal to not have a bowel movement in the military for during those first 2 weeks. Like not
really?
For a week or two. Yes, that is very common. And that's high stress. So.
Damn.
So if you make it through the first 2 or 3 weeks, then you start seeing like they're a little more relaxed. That you get a little bit more freedom, and it feels good compared to like everything you do being on lockdown.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, those rules continue through that, and then after you finish basic training, you go to technical school, technical training, where you learn your job. And that varies about your job. That can be anywhere from 6 weeks. If you've got an easy job, like you're just an admin, like basically like a secretary, your job's like 6 weeks, And then some jobs could be up to 2 years training to learn your job.
Okay.
Mine was roughly about a year, like just over a year, my training. Okay. The first training I did. So that training is an extension of basic training, and it kind of follow the same guidelines. So when you get there, you're restricted more about like you can't leave the base, things of that nature. And then after like I can't remember exactly how long, after a month or 6 weeks, they ease up to give you a little more restrictions, and then there's a point where you can leave the base if you've been there long enough and things like that.
Okay.
So they gradually give you back privileges the longer you're in, basically. So, right. And then, you're out after 6 weeks of, or after a year or so, whatever your training is, weeks, months, a year. Then you're out going to your first base. And, at that point, pretty much all of your, freedoms are restored, like a normal person would have, except the fact that you're now under two justice systems. So like, citizens are under, U.S. law, state law, things like that. You're under all that, plus you're under the Uniform Court of Military Justice, which is far more strict than U.S. law. Like, for example, adultery, like that's not a crime.
Right.
Immoral, but not a crime. It's a crime in the military. You can go to jail for adultery.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. You can be punished for it. So there's lots of things you can be punished for in the military that like as a civilian, nobody would think twice about. And one of the things you can be severely punished for is not following orders, of course.
Okay.
Or just questioning orders is an offense. So if a superior tells you to do something and you ask why I got to do that or why are we doing that, just doing that is an offense.
So, dang, so you can't just be like, why?
No.
What are we doing this for?
So, like it's people. It's made of people.
Yeah.
So if you know your boss and you have a good rapport with your boss and he's that type of person and you feel you can ask why and you can tell them why. I've had people ask me why. And I'd be like, this is why we're doing this. Yeah. Matter of fact, most of the time, mine orders would start with why. But, a lot of people are not like that in the military. So it's still people and you're still dealing with it. It's just the fact that, you really can't question it. So to give you a point, like if you were given an order you felt was immoral, according to military law, you have the right to challenge it. But here's the problem. It's they teach you this as well. On the flip side of that is that the person who gave you the order outranks you, and their word carries more weight than your word. One, and two, if you are wrong, you will be punished for challenging that superior.
Who would determine if it's moral?
I'm getting to that. So the third thing that's wrong with that is the people, the who would determine that is a board of officers. So a board of commissioned officers, like a tribunal, 3 officers would determine if the order that the person gave you was immoral. So you would have to trust that they would see things the way you see things as moral or immoral. So obviously that's not objective in the military. Right. So that's why people don't question orders, because it's extremely risky to you personally. They don't want to get dishonorably discharged or land in jail or anything like that.
So it can be that serious of a consequence that you could actually go to jail for this.
Yes, if you disobey orders and you say that, it was immoral, and if they say no, it wasn't immoral, you should have followed the orders, then they can punish you. And punishments, there's all punishments are outlined in the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and it could be just a piece of paper saying you did something wrong, basically, like just a letter that goes in a file, or it could be a fine, like they could take your pay, they could dock your pay. Or they could, or they could, put you in jail. So it just depends on how serious they take the offense.
It's for questioning the morality of something.
Yeah. So question the morality. I doubt that you would go to jail for. Well, it depends. Like I say, it depends on the circumstance. Like if they spin it to where it caused great harm. If they say it caused great harm to the service, then they could have grounds to put you in jail for it. So it'd have to be probably some pretty unique set of circumstances to actually land you in jail, but you will get in trouble if they find you to be wrong in that action. So yes,
that's interesting. That's interesting. So why do you feel like most people join the military? What are some of the main factors where you feel like people make that decision to join the military?
There's various factors. Some are patriotic, some are financial. I mean, there's other reasons like, for patriotic reasons, some of these I had myself, like, you consider it an honorable profession, which I did at the time. Love a country. You just want to serve your country. You think you're doing the right thing. Pride in wearing a uniform and, saying I defend America, just pride in that. And there's various financial reasons. It's a stable job, stable paycheck, pretty good benefits, especially medical benefits, pretty good. You get college money out of it. A lot of people join for college money. I did. When I joined, I did not plan on staying in 25 years. I was going to do one term, get the college money, get out, and go to school. Yeah. That was the plan when I joined. Obviously, that changed. You get paid training. They're paying you to be trained and have an apprenticeship to learn a trade. So if you pick the right job, that could be a very good deal for you. Like if you take the, college money and go to school, get a degree, and you've been trained specifically in a job that you've done for years, can help you on the outside. And the other reasons, and which is one reason I joined, one of the reasons I joined, and I think some other people I talked to did, is a need for discipline. Like I felt like I had no structure, I was out of control. So I thought this would force me to, learn discipline. And I've met my share of warmongers. Some people, just get excited about violence and
they're just waiting for an opportunity to get to use their weapon and have power over somebody.
Yeah. So I've met plenty of people like that as well. But I would say most thought of it as a job, not as, but I did meet some like that. People do it to escape some type of environment they're in. Travel. That was the reason why I came in. I wanted to see the world. If you're going to pay me to see the world, I'm like, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
So those are all the reasons I can think of off the top of my head why people join. But I think that covers most reasons why.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know the discipline is a big one, because I know a lot of parents who, especially with their male children, if they're, not doing well in school or just, unfocused or, seeming undisciplined. They're like, oh, you need to join the military so you can get some discipline, so you can get some structure. And no one really thinks about the other things that come along with it. They're just thinking about the plus side, like, oh, they're gonna, they're gonna force them to be disciplined. They're gonna make money. They're gonna have a job. They're gonna have insurance and all these things, but not any. I feel like with even not just even with the military, but almost with any career that a lot of parents push their kids into, they never consider the morality implications, the moral implications of that said career. You know what I mean?
When I look back on that now, I'm like, how could I ever thought what we were doing could be moral in any sense? It just never even occurred to me. So if you would have asked me, I don't know, 5 years ago, or I don't know how long it's been since, but if you'd asked me several years ago, I would have encouraged anybody to join the military, especially the Air Force, because I thought it was a good deal. If you were to ask me that now, I would be like, run far away, because it's not what you think it is. And it takes things out of you that should have never left you in the first place.
Yeah. That kind
of you can't learn, like, or just kind of, I'm trying to think of the right words, but there's just things you just don't focus on because of the environment you're in and how focused they keep you on what you're doing. You don't have time to think about, deep thought into other things like who you are. You think that's who you are. I am, a military member.
Yeah, you are your role in the military.
All you think you are,
So that, I guess that kind of leads into the next question, which is, what are service members exposed to physically and mentally that kind of put them in that mind state of thinking this is all to life. This is all that, that I am, is this role that I play in the military.
Well, it's a combination of propaganda. I mean, if you think civilians are propagandized, it's constant. We have lots of meetings, lots of functions to all reinforce how important it is, what you do, or why you're doing it. Now, obviously, those are not truthful reasons about what you do and why you do it, but not knowing what I know now, I just believe them. I'm like, why would they lie to me about this?
So what kind of things do they say? Like what kind of?
That we're bringing, we're promoting democracy, bringing freedom to oppressed countries, and stopping the spread of communism. Just things like that, and they'll you learn, and you've already learned in school that those are bad types of governments, and they're just reinforcing that that pattern that's already been developed in you from school, from your skewed history and all that. So so it's you don't back up and think, well, what gives the right for the U.S. military to be the world police? Like, why? Just because we can? And that's the road.
We have the power to do so.
Yeah, we have the power to do it, but they're saying, no, we're just out there doing good, and don't throw things your way to make you feel good. Like the military's big on community service, so they'll have community service projects. Like the last one I did was building houses in Thailand for unhoused people. So that's something I kind of I follow suit of what everybody else does. So I'm the leader of that unit, and I'm like, okay, everybody's going. Like, I didn't say it like that because it's community service,
Right.
I'm making it known, like, if you don't volunteer for this, I won't look favorably on you anymore, kind of thing. I'm not saying that, but I learned from my superiors that that's ways to motivate people to do stuff you think they should do.
Yeah.
So
that
gentle. Yeah. And that's common. Everybody knows it happens. We call it voluntold in the military. There's a word for it, voluntold. It's a voluntary thing that you're kind of told to do.
Yeah.
Like blood drawing. like that's another voluntold thing. Like go donate blood at the blood every time there's a blood drive. Basically the whole base is donate blood because everybody's being voluntold to go donate.
They drip drop some good in there, so it helps use the mind to not see all the surplus of bad.
Right, like special. Like I was in special operations for a good portion of my career, and special operations are probably the worst direct combat offenders out there. But they also do like humanitarian missions, like drop off food and water places. So yeah, they mix it in. So see, we're doing good. We're just not about war. We're about helping the world be a better place. That's pretty much what they spin on it. So,
and do they? As far as I know, there's things that people can do to you physically, and also like what you may intake as food and things like that that can affect your ability to think critically. Do you feel like that impacts at all? Or not really?
No, I don't know a lot from my experience with the food, except basic training. Maybe I don't know if it's true, but there was always rumors that they would put things in the water to make you behave a certain way. I don't know. Like one of them was that they would put saltpeter in the water to kill your sex drive because they don't want you. Because people would do outrageous things to have sex in basic training. Like,
oh wow,
people got caught in a dumpster. That's how.
Oh, that's so unsanitary. I'm sorry.
They just try to hide somewhere.
Yes. Oh my God.
Exactly. So that's pretty extreme to me.
Yikes.
So that was one rumor I heard, and it was So I don't know if any of that was true. I have no idea. Yeah. But what the biggest thing physically on you, it's both. It's mental and physical, and the one thing that contributes the most to that, degraded health, is high stress.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So like even like it's not like it's pretty much near constant during training, but it's like it comes and goes in spurts depending on what you're doing, and what kind of unit you're in. So like when I was working on aircraft generation units, they are pretty much high stress all the time, every day. So every day is like we're pretending we're going to war, and that's what we do. Every day. We train every single day of the week. We train as if we're going to war. So when you're fixing a plane to go on its next mission, you're not supposed to look at it as like, oh, we're just training, flying. Pilots are getting their hours. No, this is if they treat it as if we're at war, and so we have to practice war every day, and that's kind of how it is. And you have a lot of exercises, like actual war exercises, not just training, but during those times, you might work anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day.
Oh, and that's like physically a lot of
that might go on for that might happen for a week or two straight.
Yeah.
Just depends.
Those things definitely affect your
ability.
ability.
And if you do that once every couple of months, by the time you recover, you're doing it again.
Wow.
Kind of by the time your body recovers. But you don't know that because you don't really know your body. You don't have time to get to really know your body. So you're just reacting to that. You're in reaction mode most of your service until you figure things out, or you're in a unit that's not that intense like that. So the more directly related to combat it is, the more intense it's going to be.
Did you notice? Is there even a small percentage of people where you feel like they saw through it? They were in it, but they never really bought into it, or pretty much is it like a full buy-in?
No, I met people that, and they're usually people that just serve one term. They have some of those other reasons. Their reasons are not patriotic in any sense. They're just like, I came here to get this college money. This is a job. I'll do my job. Don't try to ask me to do more than my job. And they don't, you can tell, like, because like when we have a function, they're if they have to be there, they'll be there, but they're not really participating. So
Okay.
it's like, yeah, whatever, I'm here. You told me to come, I'm here. And then, so, those people, I think, have a better sense of what it is. They're still doing it. They want the benefits, but they don't, they're not gung ho. And like, I don't know if they necessarily believe, we're just doing a bunch of good out here. Yeah.
Okay. They're not looking at it in an idealistic manner.
Right. They're just like, I'm trying to get something out of it. I understand what you want. I'll give it to you what you want. And that's it. I'll give you the minimum, and that's it. You give me what I want. And we're kind of like a transaction, more transactional approach.
Yeah.
I've met people like that.
So, like, overall, and I feel like all the topics we've talked about have touched on this a little bit, but just kind of overall, how do you feel like military service members, like how does the military service affect them spiritually?
Before we get to that question, I just wanted to back up a bit to the other one about the mental and physical.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you do have the combat training, practice related stuff, but you also have like highly abusive cultures, like different cultures. So different units have different cultures. So I've been in units that have a lot healthier. I wouldn't say healthy in general, but healthier cultures where they treat you with more respect and dignity. And then I've been in units that are extremely abusive. Those are the ones that will break you down like extremely fast. Okay.
So what kind of abuse are they exposed to? Like what would be some examples of things they would do in an abusive unit?
Okay, so like one unit I was in Okinawa, when I first got to Okinawa, the unit I was in, the chief master sergeant there, the superintendent, was an extremely abusive person. Like, and the officers above him, those are the only people in a position to stop him, and they just went along with what he was doing. So he would order people to do things that he knows are wrong. Like, we know it's wrong because it's like rules that say you can't do it, and he would order us to do it. Like,
do it anyway.
Some of them were little things. One time he called me in his office. Like, we had a snack bar. Like, we had in our unit section, we had like snacks for sale to like raise money for events and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And that is prohibited because we have what we call Army Air Force Exchange Service, which is like the store on base, and units are not supposed to compete with them. It's in the rules. So you're not supposed to have snack bars unless AAFES says you can have it. And, obviously we didn't have any permission.
What is AAFES?
AAFES is the store on base. It's
okay. So they have to get you
store. They sell everything you would buy, food, clothes, whatever. And so people have to voluntarily go and buy the food at the commissary, which is the grocery store, the base grocery store. They'd have to voluntarily go there to buy the food to stock it. And it was a hassle because it was an extreme hassle because, we were on a flat line. So they would have to, go walk to their car, which is far away, drive to the grocery store, come back, and then haul all the groceries, without a car because they can't drive the car up to the unit. So people just stopped volunteering and nobody would go. So, I said the snack bar ran out, and I told them, hey, snack bar's out, no more food. And he ordered me to order other people to go. He says, this is super important to morale, and you have to get them to go no matter what it takes. And that was the one time my career I actually just said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then next thing you know, I've got a really crappy job, like reassigned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was that and a bunch of other things. That was just one little example of what he was doing. He did a bunch of other things to a bunch of other people. Somebody complained. They came in, did an investigation, and fired him and everybody above him, like all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So, but up until that point, we were all kind of like, every day was like, what is the chief going to say today? What crazy stuff is he going to make us do today? You know?
Yeah.
But he was, but it was just like my boss was really good friends with him, my direct boss. And it would just, you know, he would talk to you in a demeaning manner, and just tell you, oh, you need to have thicker skin. You should be able to take it, stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm here to do a job, not for you to just, you know,
verbally abuse me
every day. I'm like, that's not a lot. And I'm like, why do you think this is okay? So I had a lot of problems in that unit, but yeah, I eventually got out of that unit and moved on. So, and I've been in other units that are like, you know, all the way from what I would consider a really good unit to be in to, you know, stuff in between.
Okay.
But, you know, and I've dealt with racist bosses before. So that's, you know, so there's, you know, stuff like that. So, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's
cultures can be very damaging to your health.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a job with an very abusive boss, and it broke me down mentally very quickly, very bad. So I can imagine being in a circumstance where it's the military, where you have much less recourse to protect yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you got someone treating you like that. So yeah, that can be a bad situation because you can't just quit. I could just quit, and I did end up quitting, but you can't quit.
Yeah, like military. Our shift would be over, and our direct boss would tell us, you know, okay, you worked long, you were in there 13 hours, go home. And then he would come back and say, oh, I need them to do this, this, and this, and make you stay like a couple extra hours, stuff like that. He used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like doing it like, it's like, is he doing this just because he can, or we didn't even know why he was doing stuff like that?
Yeah. Some people, I just think they love that feeling of power over others. Yeah. It's like they feed off of it. Emotionally, you know what I mean? Like that's how they build themselves up.
Yeah, it seemed like it would have had to been that way with that guy. Yeah. But okay, moving on to your other question. What was it? Oh, how does the military services?
Affect the members spiritually? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hard question for me. One thing I can tell you is that organized religion is promoted heavily in the military. Like individual spirituality, from what I know of, not at all. So just to give you an example of that, when you're in basic training, one of the few breaks you get is going to church. Okay. So, you know, there's no like for like when they say you can go to church, you know, they'll let you choose a denomination, you know, Christian or whatever. But if you don't go to church, you're going to be on a detail doing some dirty work somewhere. So you're but I'm going to church to get my break. Yeah, from doing all this stuff. Yeah. So it's not like, you know, they say, okay, if you don't go to church, you can spend your time whatever you feel is spiritually beneficial. Like there's no such thing as that. And I think just because of the nature of the service and what you do, I think it kind of stops you from, you know, looking at things in a deep spiritual manner. I think one is because, you know, there were always times where I had hints like this don't seem quite right what we're doing.
Yeah.
But you don't want to question it too much because it's you. Like,
yeah.
It is me.
It would cause so much cognitive dissonance in you if you really started to question it. Because what would you do with the answer?
Right. And it's like a lot of like internal conflict sometimes. Yeah. So the longer I stayed in, the more that conflict bothered me. So that's what made me train into a new job, because the first job was electronic warfare, which is a kind of a more direct combat job, like a combat job. And then I said, well, I can't do this anymore. I don't feel comfortable supporting this type of mission anymore. So then I trained into a job that is like completely non-combat, but, you know, it still furthers U.S. interests. So it's still damage. It's just, you know, not directly like
not as direct.
Not as direct. So,
and I mean, I just imagine there must be so much just spiritual detachment, and also if you even just look at like the suicide rates with veterans. So
Yeah, actually, I thought about that too. And from personal experience, I can say like all the people I've known as a civilian versus all the people I've known in the military, I see way higher suicide. But when I look up the statistics online, it says it's about the same, like slightly higher. And I'm like, that's not my personal experience because I know of 3 suicides during my career, like people I actually knew. And I know of
that's high for one person. That's very high.
I know of one attempted. I know of one attempted suicide as a civilian.
Right. See.
So, but I don't. I can't base a stat on what I know. But it makes me question those stats. Suicide rates, and they do push suicide prevention is a big thing. We have that's pushed monthly, like suicide prevention training and seminars and stuff. So I'm like, if it's not a problem, why are we pushing?
Right. Why do we have to talk about this every month?
Well, we try to prevent.
Yeah.
So that's I think that is, but what I wanted to say was I think because of the high stress and the personal identity with the military, identifying yourself with it, it kind of stops you from examining yourself spiritually. I don't know if that makes sense. You don't want to create those moral conflicts. So
right.
With the high stress and everything else that goes on and the demanding jobs, it keeps you busy enough to where you can kind of avoid that.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to avoid it.
Yeah.
And since they push religion in the military, that just reinforces that moral facade. What is right, because they say stuff like that's right in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like authority is a thing in the Bible. And so if you're religious, I was never religious in the military, but for those that were, and you could tell, like I've had bosses that tried to push religious beliefs. You can tell, they're pretty much telling you it's influencing their decisions.
Right. So, and I mean, then you can actually say, well, I'm doing God's work. So it's like, now you really got a gung-ho soldier. Yes. Now they're doing this for God, not just for country. You know what I mean?
Well, that's in our oath, like God and country, all that.
Yeah. So, I just can imagine the level of detachment you have to go through in order to continue serving.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like you said, if you start to really do that introspection, it's going to lead you away from the military. This is going to lead you away.
Right.
If there's any way to do a deep introspection and be like, well, I'm still going to stay in 5 more years. I just can't see that ever happening.
No, I mean, because when it did happen for me, I walked away from a high paying job with from a DoD contract. When I was working for Microsoft, I was here in Tampa at the headquarters for special operations. That's where I was working. And once I saw the light, I'm like, I just up and quit. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't support what you do. And that was like immediately after they gave me a huge promotion and a big raise. And I just quit. My boss was like, what are you doing? You're on your way up. You're on the track. And I'm like, I was like, I can't do it anymore. So time for me to retire. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I agree with you. I think once you internalize that and you realize that this is totally immoral, you cannot do that anymore. I don't care how much money they offer you, or you just can't.
That kind of answers my last question, the conflict between military service and natural law, because natural law is based in doing no harm unless it is in self-defense.
Right.
And military service involves harming people all the time. That is not a case of self-defense.
Yes. So, and here's the it's like an absolute contradiction, right? Because all military services are under the Department of Defense. I would love for somebody to tell me the last, combat operation or war we were in that was defending, like somebody was an aggressor towards us and we defended ourselves from them.
Right. Exactly.
When does that ever happen? Who invaded America? I mean, the only possibly plausible example I can think of is way back in World War II when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
But I've heard a lot of stories. I mean, I can't say 100% that was an inside job.
That's why I say possible.
Yeah.
Plausible as defense. Everything else, the military is overwhelmingly offensive.
Right.
So, you have that natural law principle, do no harm. So we do harm all the time. We occupy other countries. That's trespass and coercion. We obviously murder
and steal property because you're stealing their land, you're stealing their resources.
Yes. Yeah. So theft, because we seize land and we seize resources. So that's theft, which we call seizure, which is theft, and we have obviously you have murder and assaults during wars and combat operations.
Right.
So I'm 100% with. Yeah, if somebody's shooting at me, I can shoot back and kill them. But where are you shooting at them? Where are you at? Are you in a shooting at somebody invading you? So which side are you on? You're in their country and they're shooting at you. So who's in the defensive posture?
Right. They're defending themselves.
Yes, exactly.
They have every right to. You came to their home. You came to their doorstep. You brought a fight to them that they didn't ask for.
Right. So I totally don't believe in the 9/11 thing being, some foreign country. I know what our air defenses look like. I was in Air Force a long time. There's no way that could realistically happen, like it was stated. So
you
I think it's
rudimentary research into what our normal air defenses are, just as a civilian, because I did. And I'm like, there's no way that plane would have got shot down like way before any of that would have happened.
Yes. So like planes are, and with all the FAA regulations, I mean, once a plane deviates off a path, they're not going to be like, oh, nothing's wrong. Just let it keep flying. There's no way no air tower is going to ever do that. Like, if you can't communicate with them, they're going to assume something's wrong.
They're not going to be like, well, let's see where they're going. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're just goofing off. Yeah, they don't do that. Not the military. They don't operate like that at all.
You can, and this is what I did for a living for a while. I mean, you can get a jet in the air in probably about 5 minutes. Pilots are just sitting in a break room waiting for something to happen on standby, suited up. They will, if they get an alert saying launch now, they run to the plane. We're running to the plane. We do our little last minute checks and send it on its way. And it's in the air from the time we get a call. By the time it's in the air, it's probably about 5 minutes. So we can get a plane in the air pretty fast, And, so that's probably unlikely, but.
Yeah, very, very implausible. We'll put it like that.
Yeah.
I'll take it off YouTube so quick.
I don't know what happened, but
plausible.
It's a little implausible, but yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, you can do bare minimum research and even just a lot of the interviews from first responders that day, with what they witnessed didn't jive, so it was a lot of evidence, I believe, and a lot of people that were familiar with demolitions, talked about how the buildings felt, things like that. So I feel like that there was a lot of evidence to at minimum make someone want to question it and look into it more, especially if because I think that was a big thing too, that for that generation, for people wanting to join the military because of 9/11. I want to fight for my country. They gonna be doing this in my country. Da, da, da. You know what I'm saying? Thinking that they're fighting this terrorist when you really, when it's something that is domestic terrorism.
Yeah. Now the only bright spot I see in that is it is becoming extremely difficult for them to recruit now. Recruiting numbers are like way down, lower than I've known in my lifetime.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear.
And does it look like it's getting any better? Like just just not a lot of faith or belief in that job anymore, and just young people are just like not like
Wake it up.
doing that. Yeah,
Good.
I'm not doing that because there's so much negative, press about what not news press, but just internet posts and stuff about what they do and where, and people are like, yes, I'm wrong with this. Like, it's not quite right.
Yeah.
That's So.
Do you know of any or hear about like many service members after they get out speaking about? I know I saw a couple that spoke about the geoengineering going on. Ex-military members speaking out. Pretty,
I don't
loudly about that. But do you run into that a lot? People that are doing what you do right now, saying, okay, this is really what this is about. This is really what's going on. This is what you need to be aware of.
No, I've not met one person.
No.
I mean, it's a lot of like most, probably a lot of the people that, I was close to when, that I knew from the military, I'm not anymore because, some are still attached to the military, like as a government civilian or a government contractor. So that's still their bread and butter. So they're probably, they don't want to hear none of that. So
Right.
And it's just, you see things different, your interests change, and I don't. So yeah, it's just not something I focus on. So I don't know a lot of like.
Okay.
I don't hang out or have any deep conversations, so I wouldn't know what they're doing personally. Like I might still see some of them on Facebook and say, "How you doing?" or "Happy birthday" or something like that, but not like see on a regular basis or anything like that.
Yeah. I think still, with mainstream culture, it's still kind of looked at very frowned upon to say negative things about service members or about the military or anything like that. Still pretty heavily frowned upon socially.
Yeah.
So,
and it's, to me, so it's they're victims of the system. Just like I think most police officers, there's some out there like that just want to be abusive. So there's some really bad police officers. I don't think no matter what job they would take, they would probably be abusive if they had the opportunity to be.
yeah.
But I think a lot of police officers are just victims of the system, just like citizens are victims of the system. And, we just got to try to wake them up. So,
Yeah.
Because it's like they're not most people I met in the military are not bad people. We're doing bad things. We're making bad choices, but we don't
They're not intentionally wanting to harm people. That's not their motive.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why I really wanted to do this podcast.
Yeah.
This is why, because I want this message spread. I think it's so important that they do that introspection. Take a deeper look because, it doesn't excuse what you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, we all have to take ownership for the choices we make. So that's why I really did want to make sure, I did this podcast. So this has been some really helpful information, I feel like, to expose some of the ways that people get trapped in the system of the military and and why they even join in the first place. Any questions or comments?
Steve.
How's it going, Saul?
My guy. Yo. Great episode. Great episode. As you were talking, especially about basic training and job training within various units, what came to my mind was the Stratford prison experiment.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where basically it showed, and according to Passio, this is something that has been repeated through time and in different cultures. And basically, when civilians are given the opportunity to be to mask as slave and to mask as slaver, the slaver always becomes the abuser, and the slave always becomes the acquiescent coward. Every time, no matter what type of personalities they put in there, or I'll say, 99.9% of the time, no matter what kind of personalities they put in there, no matter how many books they read, the slaver becomes the abuser, and even though it's just a mask, even though they know when they sign up, this is supposed to be a 2-week experiment, this is supposed to be, you can interact with each other however you choose to interact with each other, right? Even though the rules are set so that they know through and through that this is just a mask for a temporary time to see how it goes.
Right.
In the one that they made the movies about, it was supposed to be 2 weeks, and in 5 days they had to shut it down because of the extent of the abuse of the corrections officer.
Post like probably a week ago about exactly what you're saying. I saw a post. I had heard about it previously, but I just got like a refresher on it like about a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you the importance of natural law. That's why authority and hierarchy does not work.
Right, and I was just thinking to myself. My bad, Cynthia.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just thinking to myself as you were explaining some of the traumatic and also routine, but like routine into slave think, modalities that they use to keep soldiers in line throughout the training and weed out those that will be rebellious and everything else. It's just a large scale, long term Stratford prison experiment.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Cynthia, you said it like prison.
Now that I think about it, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yep. You have your prison guards, but you have more ranks. So you have your warden, you have your administrator and a couple other things besides just corrections officers and prisoners. But it's crazy like that.
Yeah. Well, it's basic training is kind of, well, for the most part, it's the it's the we call them flights. It's your flight. You're the group of people you live and sleep with every day. It's all of you and 2 instructors. Those 2 instructors, that's who you see every day. That's who tells you what to do every day. So really, you don't really interact with other people in basic training. It's flight when you're all the prisoners, and then you've got your warden is like I guess the flight, the instructors would be like the prison guards. That's who you see every day because you don't see the warden. Yeah, and that's all. Yeah, that's all you see for that whole time is people that are in the same boat as you, and then those 2 instructors that tell you when you can eat, when you can go to the bathroom, stuff like that.
Yeah. So my question, I guess, was, and it was a little off topic from that, but I loved a lot about this episode.
That was a great parallel. I'm glad you brought that up. That was a perfect parallel.
Yeah,
word. Go ahead, Steve. What was you gonna say?
No, I was just agreeing. I say it is. It's a perfect parallel. I connected the dots on that one until you said it.
And I loved a lot about this episode. I love that y'all brought up 9/11 and how buildings don't fall like that when they're hit from the side. they would fall over and not into each other or into themselves.
And the third building that fell that didn't get hit by nothing, they don't never talk about that building.
Building 7 is supposed to be a fire that made it made the steel enforced beams just collapse within each other. Yeah, whatever. But and we're not even going to talk about how all the money moved away from their accounts, that were held in those computers.
And how many people didn't come to work that day, and how
in high places
people were the higher ups.
But anyway, the question that I was thinking about was, in your opinion, Steve, what as we as a human family move closer and closer toward what is now called voluntarism or true anarchy or spiritual anarchy, as we move toward that, we still got to live in reality. We're a long way from that for the human family. And we obviously, like one country like the United States or something with a lot of people and a lot of resources and a lot of animosity around the world, we don't want to necessarily disband all of our defenses all at once. So because other countries would come in and we would be fucked if we did that. So as we move toward, slowly but surely, a better world where freedom for all is what reigns, before we get there, what do you think are some practical, operational functions of a standing military who is not going all around the world like we are, playing world police? But what are some things that a military and military intelligence could be doing that, as we move towards a better world for everybody in the world?
Well, number one is to actually do what it says it's supposed to do. Do what the name says, Department of Defense. Defend. Don't. So the premise of being the world police going over is to say they will probably do something if we don't control them. If we don't control the situation on their turf, we're going to let them build up their resources and they're going to invade the U.S. So you're saying you're going to harm them because they might harm you. That's the logic. So obviously that doesn't work. So just going back to what we should do, and, we obviously don't need as much military equipment and infrastructure to do it, is actually defend America. We already do it. We already have the capability to do that. We have a command that does it, and that's kind of all you really need to say, you can still keep your military intelligence apparatus because you need to know who's planning what. That's a good thing to know if somebody's planning something against you, because it makes it easier for you to defend against it. But you do that. You defend against it. You don't go say, we're going to go blow them up because they were planning something. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
You don't invade their country because they were planning something. You don't, that's like you saying the guy walking down the street might pull a gun on me, so let me shoot him first just in case.
Right.
That would not be different than that. Yeah. So we just need to do that, and I guarantee you our military budget would be like a small percentage of what it is, and we could defend the U.S. perfectly healthy. I mean, and you also have to look at it this way. The threat of invasion of our country is not the same as most other countries. The reason why is because everybody here has weapons. You think about it. If you're a foreign military, are you going to send ground troops into a country where, there's hundreds of millions of people with guns?
Nope.
That's going to shoot back at you? No, you're not going to do that. You might pick an easy target where guns are outlawed and you can just walk through towns and just do whatever you want to because they can't defend themselves.
For everyone. Yeah.
But if they're like, if a country did that, it would decimate their forces if they tried to do that. So, and a rule of thumb is if somebody has something you don't want to bomb it, so you can't use what they have. So them just bombing us out of existence was unlikely too, for just that reason. And the other reason is we have the same weapons. So if they did try to bomb us, we would just bomb them right back. And then you would be justified because they bombed you.
Right.
And then even then, the people of that country,
you didn't do anything. They're not involved.
When you retaliate, you can't bomb like cities. You have to bomb military targets. You can't be saying, our reasoning behind what's acceptable civilian casualties is way skewed. I mean, you should be 100% sure it's a pure military target. Like that base sent bombs to us, so we're going to bomb that base. And that's it. We're done. We're not sending forces in to take over any cities or towns or territory. We're just going to retaliate against. They bombed us, so they already proven that they're hostile towards us. So now we're going to bomb them, and that's how you bomb. We have very sophisticated equipment to locate targets and be very precise. We have very precision weapons. So There's no need for like mass casualties of civilians or nothing like that. Yeah. And like I say, usually when we do that, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. So,
Yeah, I met an Iraqi today, and I was just thinking, like, man, we killed 1 million of y'all, 1 million over false claims too, and nobody's arrested.
No one.
But see, and here's the other thing: even if what they were saying was true, what right do you have? Like, we have weapons of mass destruction, so
right.
Right. So even if it were true, it's still wrong because you can't say I get to have weapons of mass destruction and my allies get to have them, but we as a group determine who in the world can have them.
Yeah, the world's police, the world's moral police, the world's every kind of police.
Yes,
they're gonna tell everybody what's best for them, and it's like, why do you feel like you have that right? That's so insane to me that you think you have that right to tell everyone else how to live around the whole world. Crazy.
Yeah. So I don't. If they were committed to doing that, it would not be a hard thing to do. But the hard part is to get the military to change its way. It's a tool. So the military itself doesn't make those decisions. Military, like the generals, they follow orders too. And, those orders come from the commander in chief, president, and secretary of defense and the secretary of the services. They're all civilians. Those people follow orders. So I don't know if that could ever happen because the people that are above the people you see are the true order givers. They're the true order givers. Everybody else is just passing it along.
Yeah.
I don't know if those people would ever change their ways. Those people would have to be removed from their positions of authority, and that would take a complete societal change. So the military could easily be in a moral defense posture, but I don't think it would unless, coming down from the top, it says that's what it does. And the people at the top, they have no allegiance to the U.S., so why they have no interest in that.
Right. They're interested in them. That's it. There is no other interest, themselves. So, yeah.
So that's why it would take a societal change to remove those people from power. Like, if we don't give those people power, they can't do anything. Now they no longer control the military, and I guarantee you, by the will of the people, the military would be defensive. Most people don't think, without the propaganda and all that stuff, they're not going to think, if somebody might do something, let's go bomb them. No, just most people aren't going to think that way.
Right.
Right.
So. Yeah. Okay. So did you have any other questions, comments?
No, I completely agree, but my wife does.
Oh, okay.
Hey, this is
Tinsy.
First of all, I was very much so looking forward to this episode, so I've been chiming in, listening from my phone or Soul's phone. And thank you for being on the podcast and talking about the veterans' perspective of all these things, especially when it comes to natural law. It's a voice and a perspective that I don't hear often, especially in the context of natural law. And my brother is a veteran. He was in the Army, and I feel like oftentimes he struggles between knowing some of the wrongs that the government continues to do, and then also the comforts of the guarantees and the benefits that come with being a veteran that he utilizes. So I wonder how, I guess the word that comes to my mind is what sort of shadow work, or how did you pull yourself out of the grips of, in terms of, your own sovereignty and your own mind frame of the military? And I mean, my brother, he went through all sorts of struggles after he got out from, addiction and pharmaceuticals. Big Pharma, is a victim of Big Pharma, and became a disabled veteran. So,
yeah, I could definitely see that, and that was something that didn't get brought up, but that is something the military also pushes very heavily, like more, I think even more than the civilian population, are pharmaceuticals. So when you go to the doctor in the military, more than likely, like, most of the time, they're going to just say, take these pills, no matter how strong a pill they got to give you, because they want you to go back to work. And they say, they're not going to they're not like interested in the cause or treating it, or they're like, take these pills and get back to work.
Wow.
After I got out, there were lots of undiagnosed conditions in my records. So they addressed them after I got out as a veteran. But when I was on active duty, they was like, oh, you have this condition. They never diagnosed it. They just kept sending you home, giving you some pills and sending you home. And that condition. So, kind of messes you up. There's things conditions I have that could have been avoided if they've been treated while I was on active duty, instead of just, passing it along and saying, take the pills and go back to work. So, and if you have an addictive personality with some, then if they're constantly giving you, strong painkillers for this and that, it's strong possibility of developing addiction.
Yeah. So,
but as far as what woke me up, she's sitting right there on the camera. To be honest, she was the spark. Like, we used to fight about,
yes, we did.
Just like this constantly. And I was like, no, government wouldn't do that, and blah, blah, blah. And,
I was the crazy conspiracy theorist.
I used to call her that. Like, you need to get out of doing this conspiracy theory stuff and stuff like that. So one day I decided, let me instead of arguing, let me start looking up stuff.
That's all I would ask him to do. I'm like, research it. You're smart. Research it. Don't believe me.
Right. And then didn't take a whole lot of research to get me on the track. Let's put it that way. Not a lot. And I'm like, you know what? When you look at it objectively, because I was not looking at it objectively because it was part of my identity. But once I tried to step out of that and, started listening to people like Mark Passio and stuff, and then I kind of step out and say, let me look at this objectively. Like, what did I do when I was in the military? Where was I at? Why was I there? And it's like, no, none of that stuff was right. And then what does the government do? Because I work with the State Department too. Like, what do they do? Why are they doing it? None of that's right. Our influence is not just the military. I worked very closely with the State Department when I was in Thailand, and their mission is the same as ours. They just don't use guns. Same mission.
Yeah, that's a similar paradigm that I'm currently in with my brother, because I'm so grateful that he's gotten to a point of not having the same addictions that he once had, but there's still the narrative of the government wouldn't do that. They wouldn't. They wouldn't go that far. I know I saw some things, and I know what they could be capable of, but these things are in place so that doesn't even happen to me.
Yeah. It's tough, especially, with him talking so much about the level of brainwashing, the level of propaganda. I can imagine that's just really hard to come to terms with that. It's got to be really difficult. Much more difficult than the average person, just because of, the military environment.
Yeah. So.
But I definitely appreciate the perspective, and it gives me hope to continue just have more conversations together and just get down to the heart of, hey, what do you really want out of life, bro? Hey, maybe,
Just keep planting them seeds, Tennessee. Keep planting them seeds. One of them might sprout.
Yeah, it'll work. Because it's very different when somebody that you know loves you or cares about you says something than when you just hear stuff on the internet. Because half stuff I hear still to this day, half stuff I see, I don't even know if it's true. I take everything with a grain of salt.
Right.
You know, so if you're it's but when it comes from somebody that has a lot of conviction that you know and love, if you keep saying it enough, I think it will sink in eventually. Because some of the stuff he probably knows, just not ready to admit right now. Because I was at that point for a while.
That part.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. I said that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Just giving up and saying, I admit this was jacked up. I made a mistake. Because I don't want to say, I just wasted 20. I didn't waste 25 years of my life, but I don't want to say that I was wrong 25 years of my life. It's a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, before that, I was extremely proud of my military service, like extremely,
Right. Yeah, that is hard. And I give you much credit for taking that step and for doing what you're doing right now, helping to awaken others, because a lot of people, even once they do wake up, they keep it real silent because they don't want no one, you know what I'm saying, coming for them. They still want to keep all their relationships intact. They don't want anyone judging them. They don't want anybody thinking that they're the crazy conspiracy theorist now. You know what I mean? They don't want that title. So they just keep it all so they know what's going on, but they keep it silent. They won't speak on it publicly. And that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Once you get past that, because I don't care anymore. I'm like, you can think what you want. I'm just going to stick with what I know to be true, and that's the only thing I'm going to ever say to you. So I can't. Somebody was asking me about their child joining the military, and I just had to flat out say I would not do that. I wouldn't. If you have any influence over them, I would highly encourage you to get them to not join the military.
Yeah.
I probably would have never said that in a million years, like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And y'all didn't need. And if I can just say one more thing, and y'all we didn't, and not that it would be necessary for an episode, maybe not even a show like this, but get into the straw man aspect of what is also, because that's also at least the surveillance part of it run by the military, and keeping the financial, which just means the access to resources for most of the civilians and the citizens under the control of the government at a minimum, as much as possible. Of course, it's a little bit different here than it was for the monarchy that was the British Empire, or, a whole lot of other countries, definitely the communist countries. It's a lot different because the American experiment was supposed to be different, but it's still the same result. Most of us, especially now, in this aftermath of the Biden-Harris administration, where inflation went crazy and all of the prices went quadruple, and rent is now like $2,200-$2,300 average for everybody. The straw man aspect didn't even, we didn't even touch that. And that's still kind of surface level. Right.
Absolutely. So, but yes, I this was awesome. I can't wait to post this online. This was phenomenal. I think we really covered, some really important topics, like seriously important topics, because the military is the main thing, in my opinion, that is supporting the structure, the system that we are under. There's no way the elites can do what they are doing without that support from the military. So trying to wake up military service members, for me, is like so important. So thank you so much, Steve, for your honesty, for the information, for sharing, for being committed to this cause. I appreciate it so much. And as always, I encourage you all to visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com. Please follow on social media at affirmlifedaily. Steve, did you have any closing comments or anything that you want to say?
Not really. I think we covered quite a bit, and I enjoyed speaking, and I'll be tuning in for the next podcast.
All right, sounds good. There will be one coming up soon. So for now, grace, love, and gratitude. You all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.